Your house is 100 times more likely to experience a major maintenance breakdown to mold and water damage.
I want you to explain what Shipshape is.
Shipshape is really the only smart home product I've seen that's really delivering like real value.
Can you talk about where Shipshape has been able to save individuals money?
We've seen a 90% reduction in churn on those maintenance plans by including Shipshape.
How are these helping on both the homeowner side and the contractor side?
The biggest benefit for the contractor is
The AI assistant that you guys have built into Shipshape is like insane, next level.
ChatGPT blew the doors off the RAI assistant. It's even a step past that. You're not going to have any apps on your phone here pretty soon. It's just going to be one big assistant.
Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
All right, tradies. Another week of Beers with Contractors. Terry, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Will.
Do you have your pinky out today because you've switched to the whiskey?
It just doesn't want to raise up. No, it's been a whiskey day, and next week's going to be a whiskey week. So
Yeah, it is. So next week, to the listeners out there, two things to cover. We will look aged on next episode that you have, because next week is our National Construct My Future Camp, where we host 7th and 8th graders, teaching them all about the trades. And it is a week long of chaos. We've got, 96 kids this year and a waiting list, Terry. It's going to be a mess, but a lot of fun. It's so much fun, but it is exhausting. Second note to our listeners, just to be clear, we will probably have degrading quality throughout the episode because Terry is, in fact, drinking whiskey. He is the last person on earth to not program anything into his Apple Pay. So he stopped to get some brewskis today, figured out he did not have his wallet and could not pay with Apple Pay. So he is going to the hard stuff today because we're getting into some hard topics, right, Terry?
exactly.
So I'm excited. We actually spoke to this guest or this company as a guest probably a little over a year ago. I mean, some of the stuff they do is really cool, and I love it because, with technology companies, we get updates, and now there's just more data to pull from and all that. So our guest today actually spent a decade over working in finance and focused on sales and business development across U.S., Europe, Middle East, APAC. I mean, it's cool. Prior to joining a company called Shipshape. So for those that are long-term 5 listeners of you out there, know about Shipshape, but built this business inside companies like PIMCO and Goldman Sachs. Recently started working under the president of Green Street, working directly under large institutional owners of single-family rental properties, where he learned about the challenges homeowners face, when dealing with unexpected maintenance issues, because houses never break down, right, Terry?
No, perfect from day one.
Yeah, so now that's spun off into this really cool organization. I'm actually a customer of them personally, and my foundation repair waterproofing company. But now he oversees the sales team, sales strategy, strategic partnerships, and all the investor relations at Shipshape.ai. Ryan Dalton, co-founder and CRO. Welcome to the podcast. Cheers to you. We were giving him pre-show a little grief over his White Claw, but it's all good. We're all good.
I thought this was a no judging zone, but I see what's going on here.
We will judge you thoroughly and completely.
But well, Terry and I judge each other constantly. So
Excellent. Well, look, guys, thanks for having me on. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm excited to see where this goes.
That's cool. So, well, hey, listen, you spent some time, first off, in the financial institutions. What's the biggest difference now changing from that to working with this very sophisticated industry at Contractors? What's the difference been there, Ryan, before we dive into Shipshape?
Oh, man. There's a range of answers there. I will keep this one PG. Yeah, just for the listener. So I was on Wall Street and I was as a sales trader for basically 10 years. You can derive what you want from that. But in terms of actual selling, there's a lot of differences. Most of the selling I was doing was almost all electronic. So we were doing selling through different electronic platforms like Bloomberg, for example. So a lot of the prospecting was done over kind of like text and just like DMing each other on the platform that was available to all these companies. And it was cool because I had access to every single person at that company at any level. I could message the CEO and they would see it and they would likely read it. Whereas now it's so much more manual. So it requires many emails, drip campaigns. You're crossing your fingers for some level of Like, have they even heard of us before? And that's if you think your emails aren't getting directly filtered to spam. So there's that. But the biggest difference is the gatekeepers. Figuring out how you get past the gatekeepers. They're very good at filtering calls. And it's almost become a little bit of a dance. You got to build a relationship with these people. But I'm starting to notice the real relationships are getting built, not through cold calling, not through email campaigns. They're typically being done at trade shows, conferences, and then, of course, referrals. This industry is small, especially in waterproofing, and a lot of folks know each other and have been in the business for a long time. It also comes with a little bit of reputation as well. You got to stick around for a while.
Well, with that knowledge, though, I mean, I kind of love this aspect because you work with a wide spectrum of contractors with sophistication and lack of sophistication. And podcast hosts that have lack of sophistication, obviously. But, what do you think, bringing this to contractors that are listening to this, what are some of the things you've learned from that they should probably transfer and institute in their businesses now to help with that scalability and growth?
Yeah, definitely big differences in sophistication. And that goes for both inside waterproofing and out, right? So I think it goes back to what we were saying before the podcast got started is, waterproofing is a relatively new trade when you compare it to HVAC, which has been around for 100 years. There's been a ton of M&A activity in HVAC since like the 80s. And so I think what you see is when you get institutional money coming into, especially, a business that's as seen as antiquated and room to grow on the technology side, room to grow on the operational efficiencies, you start to see like a buttoning up of the industry, both by the owners and by the entire industry, because there's a lot of money to be made. So if I'm an HVAC dealer and, I'm very good at what we do, we're printing cash, but we're very bad at technology. We're missing all kinds of leads. There's a lot more opportunity to grow. You better figure it out because the guy next to you, the guy you're competing with for that acquisition, he's doing the same thing and he's seeing the same thing. And so I think as that institutional capital comes in, you start to see, and I think that's why it's HVAC so different than waterproofing. This has been going on for 40 plus years. Now, whereas waterproofing, you've got KKR coming in and Groundworks, and now a number of other firms like Center Oak and several other kind of private equity players who are willing to put big money into these businesses. And I think it's forcing the waterproofers to figure it out, across the board. For me, obviously I'm biased. So like, what would I like to see in terms of sophistication? I mean, even things as easy as like, are they checking their emails? Are they able to like join a Google Meet? You would be surprised at how many contractors, and it's not that I don't think they know how to do it. It's just, they're so busy with their day-to-day that it's hard for them to, teach themselves a new trick. Kind of say, I don't want to say an old dog, because a lot of these guys are younger guys.
Yeah.
But I think that's also part of the problem is, the owners themselves are out there in the field. And I think that to some extent you got to do this. You got to put in your work, get your hands dirty for a while. But I think a lot of owners, what they do is they get up to that 3 to 5 million revenue, potentially even like 6 million in revenue. And they can't break above that glass ceiling because they can't relinquish control. They don't want to give up control, or, they don't want to delegate the sales. And they're so caught up. They're just so emotionally invested in this business that they end up actually hurting themselves. And so, maybe they aren't checking their emails, or, maybe introducing technology is at the bottom of that list because they're so busy, trying to keep up with new projects. And by the way, I say this is not as a waterproofer owner. So this is just, my thesis based off of what I'm seeing. And I think there probably is a lot of missed opportunity because technology can help these businesses grow faster. And I mean, no doubt, like if we're going to talk about anything, or like these maintenance plans, like the churn on these maintenance plans is very real. And, I think homeowners, they get 3-4 months out, they're realizing, why am I paying $20 a month?
Yeah.
Cancel, like that's a high churn on those maintenance plans. When in reality, those maintenance plans had so much value to their business.
Yeah, well, and by the way, I want to come back to that later because churn is not a KPI that you hear in the contracting world a lot at all. So, but it is a powerful one. Well, we know from the software world that's a common term, but not on the maintenance churn. So hold on. I want to call time out here because these unsophisticated contractors that don't answer emails, don't answer phone calls, do not have their iPhones attached to Apple Pay, Terry. I want you to get your crayons out. No, I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about anybody specific, Tura. But let's back up a little bit. And for my friend Terry here, Ryan, I want you to get your crayons out. And I want you to explain what Shipshape is first, because it is a cool software. And Terry, I know you weren't on our first episode with Alex, but it's a cool product.
Yeah. I mean, the easiest way to think of it is we're like a security company, except we're not worried about theft. We're worried about protecting your home from unexpected maintenance issues. I use that comparable because there's a fun fact, not so fun fact, and it's your house is 100 times more likely to experience a major maintenance breakdown specific to mold and water damage than you are to have your home broken into. And so, these homeowners that are, basically investing most of their capital into their most important asset, which is their house. It's crazy to me that they're not watching their home or now that this technology exists, not to mention they just hired you guys to do a $7,500, mold remediation project. I mean, how do you protect that? You're not home all the time, and you're certainly not going down into your basement or crawl space to check on the sump pump and dehumidifier all the time. And, to us, it seems like a no-brainer to protect your investment. And that's basically what we're doing. So contractors, specifically in the waterproofing industry, will stay there, are bundling in, just a few little sensors that plug into any sump pump or dehumidifier. What was before a dumb sump pump is now smart. And so it's monitoring the power on that thing, temperature, humidity, to the extent that you want air quality, we can do that too. And the same with the dehumidifier. And it's got all kinds of cool little features. Like you can actually see the gallons of water that are like pumping out live. It shows you how much energy your dehumidifier is using, which by the way is the second largest user of energy behind the HVAC.
Huh.
Because that thing's running all day, every day. And that's part of the reason why we're working with Southern Company, which is a big utility company in the South. They're very interested in the fact that they can turn those on and off remotely because they're basically getting to a point where they're going to start offering their customers, hey, let us control those dehumidifiers. We'll reduce your utility bill. But, basically we are bringing your crawl spaces and basements online and then watching it like a security company, and you're getting a phone call if there's a problem. That's the easiest way to know it. And then for the tech savvy folks, there's an app that comes with it, and you can see all kind of cool, interesting stuff there. You'll get filter change reminders. And for our contractors, what a great way to get back into the door. Maybe they didn't buy that second dehumidifier, which they very much should have, but, they feel like they're being sold a flux capacitor. So, fair. But once you show them that high humidity report, pretty hard to unring that bell in a homeowner's mind because they live with that period. They don't want their kids getting asthma. And if they do, and they've seen that high humidity report, they've got nobody else to blame but themselves. But that's what we do. It's been a fun and exciting journey over the last 5 years. Homeowners, especially in certain markets, seem to be much more like aware that this stuff probably exists, and they're starting to ask about it, especially if you go to like the gateway cities. Hopefully that answered your question.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Ryan, it's interesting you bring up the idea that homeowners are spending however much on a security system to, maintain that VCR or that DVD player, right? Behind the console, right? But, a water leak or an issue like that can be tens of thousands of dollars, and they're oblivious to what that could be.
That's the problem is the basements and crawl spaces. That's why we started there, is because that stuff is so out of sight, out of mind. People don't don't even realize that if you move into a new house, some homeowners don't even realize that there's a pump down there that's doing anything. And by the time that it's not working and you smell that smell, or you feel those floors creak, or you hear them creaking, or there's some issue inside the house that's clearly from a foundation crack, it's way too late. And those jobs, the waterproofing jobs are so expensive. Like you do not want those problems. And that's a perfect example. One of the first houses I went to, I showed up, it was kind of like in a trailer park. The house must have been under $100,000. And like the deck was almost like caved in. And I had already been into some scary crawl spaces, and I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be one of the scary ones. And remember I was working in finance, so I'm a wuss. I'm a huge wuss. And so I'm showing up like it's gonna be a freaking snake in there or something. And so I show up in this thing, and it was pristine. The whole house, absolute disaster. Like you could smell the cat pee just walking up to the house. But in this crawl space, I would have eaten dinner off of the ground. It was perfectly encapsulated. And it was super easy hookup, hooked up the dehumidifier sump pump. Actually had 2 of them in there. And I remember walking out and he's like, yeah, I know. He's like, I'm a truck driver and I could not afford to like basically have this issue happen again. So I paid the most amount of money I did so I don't lose my house or have it convicted or what's it called when
Convicted?
not convicted,
Condemned.
when condemned. Yeah.
Yeah, Will might know about the conviction part of it, but the condemned aspect applies to real estate.
And he chased me out of the house with cash in his hand and he said, take this cash. And I said, this one's on us. And he's like, I can't afford to not have this.
Yep.
And I remember that stuck with me. That was powerful.
Well, speaking of technology, first off, we need to rewind a little bit. Terry, you mentioned about security systems. And I don't think a lot of we have 5 listeners. There's probably one of them under the age of 30. You mentioned VCR before. I don't think they know what that is. Do you still have a freaking VCR, Terry?
No, I do not. I do not. But we have had to pull them out of the classrooms at the university. There are these, like, you should see the kids. When they, like, look at it, they have no idea what it is.
Like, what is that?
Hey, don't worry. Don't feel bad.
Ask your kid to show you what the symbol is for being on the phone. That'll freak you out.
Yeah. It's probably like this.
No, we go like this. They go like this. Mm-hmm. I know. That's where we're at.
Cool.
That's where we're at.
Damn, we're going to correct that at our camp next week. One child at a time. But no, so bringing up technology and things like that, like the AI assistant that you guys have built into ShipShape is like insane next level. Like specifically on proactive maintenance alerts. And, how are these helping on both the homeowner side, meaning your AI assistant on the homeowner side and the contractor side?
Tradies, running your small business can be demanding. You got suppliers you got to work with. You're managing crews. Hell, you're chasing sales. It's a lot to take in. Listen, if you want to grow your business, you got to stop working in it and you got to start working on it. So that's where my friends at Foundation Rescue Supply come in. You're not just getting foundation repair products and waterproofing products and air quality control products. With their nationwide distribution, you're getting a partner who knows how to help you scale. And that's why I use them. The Foundation Rescue Supply team has industry knowledge that'll help make your life easier. You get the tools, the trainings, the systems that you need to move the needle. You want your sales team to close more leads? Done, because they have the proven process for that. You need your crews to work smarter, not harder? Done. Their installation training will get you out there and rocking and rolling in the field. With Foundation Rescue Supply, you're not just buying materials here. You're buying a better business system that they have helped create. And you sell more, you install more, and you grow your team. So the bottom line is this. You get best industry pricing, you get field productivity on track, and you get more revenue out of everybody on your team. So this is your chance to step up, scale up, and thrive. If you are ready to make that happen, head to foundationrescuesupply.com, check out their catalog, and speak to my friends, their team, how you can take beyond the products with your company with Foundation Rescue Supply.
Yeah, a lot of ways. And it's obviously gotten much more powerful as we move through time. I mean, obviously the release of ChatGPT, blew the doors off our AI assistant, which it now uses. Mm-hmm. But it's even a step past that. It's helping homeowners, troubleshoot problems so that contractors don't have to roll trucks. You'd be surprised how many people or other contractors just unplug the sump pump. Like, is it plugged in? And so it will actually walk you, hey, something's not right. It's making a noise or it's not making a noise or it feels, warmer in here or whatever. The home assistant, which we call SAM, ShipShape Assisted Maintenance, this cute little otter that lives in the app, it'll help you troubleshoot that stuff, but it also helps you book appointments. So if you wanted to get a truck rolled over there because the troubleshooting didn't work, you can book it straight through that. Some of our contractors are using it to basically sign up for maintenance appointments. So Sam will let you know, hey, it's been 6 months. You haven't changed the filters. Here's how you do it. But if you don't want to do it yourself, just click this button and that signs you up for the maintenance plan. So the contractors love it. The homeowners love it. It's getting more powerful every day. Pretty soon there won't even be an app. It's just going to be just Sam. And that's who you're going to interact with. And he's going to tell it, or she will tell you when there's an issue. But yeah, I think basically all that. You're not going to have any apps in your phone here pretty soon. It's just going to be one big assistant.
Well, I saw Sam in our show notes here, and I just thought it was a typo. I'm like, I didn't know it was named Sam.
Sam, Shipshape Assisted Maintenance, the otter.
I thought it was Skynet Automated Murder or something like that as an
No,
abbreviation.
that's
but
what it
no.
evolves into.
This is a
But
start.
we love the Skynet references.
By the way, to be clear, Terry, this is where you could take a jab at me because the term Skynet is just as outdated as VCR.
Oh, I'm tracking hard. T2 was like, was
on it.
That movie shaped my childhood.
Oh, goodness.
Childhood. That's the best part of it. You know, Ryan,
Yeah, the best part of my childhood was Skynet killing all humans.
Yeah.
Ryan, one thing that, I mean, you kind of talked about or you kind of glanced over. So in my background, I'll have residential rental property, and in the idea that I can have a system set up to alert me to issues that are going on in my homes, because the tenants are not the best at letting me know, hey, there's a leak or there's a drip or your HVAC system is overflowing and now causing all your drywall to cave in your kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big thing because, well, tenants either, they just don't have, why are they motivated to tell you there's an issue? Unless it's directly affecting their comfortability or their life. If they see a leak or like the drywall getting wet, hey, why do they care? Do they even really know what that is? And also, how easy is it to tell you? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I think is typically the mentality that tenants are doing. And so having a system that alert you before, that hot water leaks all the way into your bedroom, which is something we catch very often. We typically hook up the owners of the business's homes first. And we caught a big water heater leak for one of the owners' homes in like the first 2 days. We were like, are you going to buy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we've got a ton of vacation rental owners, and we're working on a big project with a big institutional owner of single family rental homes. Just, yeah, it's another no brainer.
By the way, that's cool to think because, well, walk me through that, Ryan, because we have in our world typically a repair product. Maybe it's a sump pump or a dehumidifier or plastic in a crawl space or a basement in my industry specifically. But we think of it in the contractor niche world like, hey, I'm going to accompany this with my existing products that I just sold a customer. But these are products that can also be installed without all of that for monitoring. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a great point.
But you can install those into the houses without all the fancy equipment as the, like, hey, let's keep an eye on this, and then we can add those if needed, right?
Yeah, so good example, big home services company we just signed in Ohio. They're called 5-Star Home Services, and they're probably the fastest independently owned home services group. They are so they've white labeled Shipshape, first of all. So they're paying to have it. It's not the Shipshape app, it's the 5-Star Home Services app. That's what you look up. And the reason they wanted that is because they want every single home that they go into to have the app, because that app is still sending alerts about, hey, it's the time to get your XYZ service. It's time to change the filters. They can see past visits. They can also do cool things like upload their inspection report and it'll populate their home health score. So it's another way for them to stay connected to that customer for life, so that it just increases the chances that they get a call back the next time another problem happens. Because I think most of the contractors that we talk to, it's about 50% of the time. Because, the guy that did your work 7 years ago, then something goes wrong, they're not fishing through the change drawer to find that stuff. They're on Google being like, I need help now, and I live in this area. So the app kind of having the no solution app kills that. So that's probably the best example I can think of.
So Ryan, the concept of Shipshape is you have these reoccurring touch points for contractors with the customer, right?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest benefit for the contractor is it gets you back in the door. So, we're sending an alert, hey, high humidity, or pump running when it shouldn't be. And when you have the data the second time you go back to that house, it just makes those follow-on sales easier. Also, a lot of contractors, like the really sophisticated ones, they have a much higher average dollar per stop. So they don't care. We've got some contractors that are like, we don't care if it's a battery replacement. We are sending a truck over there because they know that if they walk in that door, the good sales guys are probably going to sell them something. The second is the lead generation that is producing. So, we've got all kinds of different campaigns that we can run through, like text alerts and alerts through the app. But just for an example, so we ran a Shipshape campaign to all of, I think it was about 1,000 past customers of this particular contractor. And we ended up connecting about 100 of those And we spit out $70,000 worth of new project leads from those past customers, and for all different kinds of reasons. So it's the lead gen. And that's the big thing is also increasing your close rate, because whether or not that customer decides to sign up for your bid over the others, the fact that you presented yourself as, hey, we're Vesta, our solutions come with the monitoring service as well. And the perception is that you're more forward thinking and innovative. And so therefore they perceive you as to be more sophisticated. So we do see a 3 to 7% close rate increase. And then the biggest thing is, if you've got a maintenance plan, you should have monitoring, whether it's Shipshape or another one, but that should be included, because we've seen a 90% reduction in churn on those maintenance plans by including Shipshape, because the perception of value is so much higher when you have something that's basically spitting out this data, sending you proactive alerts, getting you back to thinking about the work that's been done, not to mention, for continuing to prove that work that was done right.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the big ones.
And I think you see a lot of homeowners moving to the point where they want that data. I mean, they want to do the right thing. They want to make sure their home is in a good position. And the idea that they have something giving them that information on a daily basis is probably very significant for them.
I mean, it's the homeowners that put their ear to the ground to see if that pump is running right. And that's why we liked the contractors so much, is because these contractors, for us, we knew we didn't want to go direct to consumer, because that's expensive. It's very hard. And typically, you want to catch customers when you have a painkiller like that we have, our solution, you want to catch them at a painful moment. And so, if I've got a foundation crack, or I just had some big mold remediation project that I just paid a bunch of money for, you're thinking about that. You're paranoid. And the next time you go to a ball game and it starts pouring rain, or some storm rolls through, or you're on vacation and it's raining, it's raining back home, you're going to wish you had that system set up, because you remember the pain. It's still very real. Even 10 years later, most folks, they're paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, that's how it is in the U.S. And, people don't have $10,000 in cash sitting in their checking accounts. And so they don't want to get surprised with another $7,500 issue. So your buying peace of mind is it's like $9 a month for your sanity to some extent.
Yeah. So hold that thought, because I want to rewind. I want to touch on some of the business side here.
Yep.
Because you have, Ryan, the knowledge from the HVAC world, which monthly maintenance plans are very common in that space. They're very common in pest control. And I have made some jokes about hey, we only have 5 listeners. But I know we have actually several electrical contractors out of Ohio that listen to us. And then, of course, the foundation repair, waterproofing folks. So what are you seeing on the monthly maintenance plan trends around the country here? Because it is a great opportunity, and this is where we bring up churn, because if I ask churn to a contractor, they'd be like, what do you mean? But what are you seeing there? Is it a one-time fee? Is it a monthly fee? And what is it doing to the profits of these companies?
It's wildly all over the board. There is no one set standard, because I think it's just so different.
Well, hold that thought. So let me rephrase the question, Ryan. In your opinion, from your knowledge of serving all of these industries all over the country, what is the best maintenance plan that you've seen that has worked well with Shipshape?
Don't do a monthly, even though we've seen a lot of companies moving into monthly, but those customers are going to churn over very quickly, because again, they're going to get 4 months in, they're going to realize what's this $20 charge. And it's actually, fun fact, the women make 70% of the decisions for the household in terms of maintenance stuff. And so, dad thinks, oh, definitely getting the maintenance. Then mom sees the credit card charges and is like, why are we paying for this? And then husband tries to explain why they're paying for it, and he can't, because he's like, I actually don't know. The guy sold it to me. So Ryan Dalton, based on what I've seen, lock them into a maintenance plan for longer, because the longer that the period of time, the more period that passes, the more likely there is going to be a case that comes up in which they're going to wish they had that maintenance plan. And it's surprisingly, that stuff comes up a lot. It comes up a lot. When they need to change the filter, they're going to wish they had the maintenance plan because they don't want to do it themselves. They think they do, but yeah, go ahead.
That's interesting. And by the way, thank you, Ryan, because I hear a lot of folks saying, no, you need to do a monthly, and then, that it's not working. But when you say lock in, are you seeing customers prepaying for a 3 and 5 year maintenance plan ahead of time?
Yes.
Just to go ahead and be done?
Yeah. Yes. Again, it's market to market. Like your gateway markets, for example, if you're in, let's call it the Pacific Northwest, where you see a lot more kind of tech savvy, tech forward people, they're all doing it. They don't want to think about it. They're locking it in. They want the ship shape. They want the maintenance plan. Let's pay for it and get over it, get rid of it. You see less of that as we kind of move inwards. But to the extent that as a contractor, you can lock in, a 1 to 3 to 5 year maintenance plan. Who's really good at doing that is Groundworks. They have been the leader of selling these 3 to 5 year maintenance plans to a point where it's almost like it's a very, very, very good skill to have. Their sales guys it's their service center, I believe, that most of those are working through. But, if you can take a page out of their book and figure out how to sell a 3 to 5 year maintenance plan, and then you want to talk about what it does to their businesses, that's gold. If you can lock in maintenance plans, especially for a year plus, your business is going to be perceivably much more valuable than it was without those maintenance plans. And therefore, you are going to trade at a much, much higher multiple than, the business that doesn't have the maintenance program, that doesn't have sophistication around how these programs are built, that doesn't have sophistication around how to reduce churn. The ones that are selling for those, double-digit EBITDA multiple numbers, are the ones that have spent a lot of time and a lot of intention and energy on figuring out how do they sell these service plans. And a big part of it, I think, is engaging your past customer base. It's surprising to see how many contractors are not engaging their past customers. They are, because their marketing company told them to, and they're running some like drip campaign. But if you spend time thinking and energy thinking about how do we really, activate these past customers, and I'm talking like service center, full campaign, calling these customers, you'd be shocked at how much success you get from just calling a customer a year later and just saying, hey, just wanted to call and see, how things were going. And then you ask the next question is, well, have you been down there since we've been in the work? The answer is almost always no. And so when they say no, oh, you haven't been down there, so I'm assuming you haven't changed the filter then. And they're like, no, I'm supposed to change the filter. And they're like, no, you're in good company. A lot of people do that. Hey, just FYI, to make sure that you increase the life of that appliance and to make sure you avoid from ever having to confront this terrible, expensive issue that you had to go through, we highly recommend you just get on the maintenance plan and have it done for you. And even just that 30-second to 2-minute call will unlock an incredible amount of value for your business. I mean, we're talking of the difference between single and double-digit multiples. And again, I say that not as a contractor owner, but that's what we see between contractor A that we work with and contractor B. The differences are very, very obvious, at least from the outside looking in.
But what are some of the other technologies that ShipShape's starting to integrate with, other than just sump pumps and dehumidifiers and HVACs?
I have a contrarian view actually on the whole everything's connected and everything's going to be IoT. I might get shot for saying this, but I believe that the smart home and all the excitement around the smart home has kind of died. It's dead. Cool. Lights, locks, and security, like Google and Amazon and Apple, they're still fighting over that. And the fact that the coolest smart home gadgets we have is still your security, like a Ring camera, it, in my opinion, has largely been a failure to deliver. And in terms of and I don't know if you use any smart home products, even the lights, oftentimes very disappointed. It doesn't work that well. Things break down. It doesn't really understand. And do people really want to have smart refrigerators? Do you want to have 15 different apps for your refrigerator and your washing machine? And by the way, I promise I'm leading up to a point here, but but basically, the manufacturers know that too, and they're seeing it. A perfect example is, we love Aprilaire. Aprilaire is a great company. We know they're big in the industry, but Aprilaire or in Wayne for that matter, they have these connected pumps, and I think they're coming out, or they've already come out with a connected dehumidifier. The price difference, and also just like the why, I think is the same reason that all of these other kind of smart appliances are failing is homeowners don't care. Like, I don't want to pay an extra $1,000 to have my washing machine, tell me when it needs to be serviced. Ideally, like, these appliances aren't causing major headaches for you. Like, they're not breaking down or flooding your house. I do think that it makes a lot of sense to make the dumb appliances that are controlling like your comfortability, for example, or your safety, or the safety of your house. I think those should absolutely be monitored. And so, shameless plug for Shipshape here, but like Shipshape outside the security business is really the only smart home product I've seen that's really delivering like real value. And like, we have a book this thick of customer saves to show for it. Customers saying like, you saved my
that's
ass.
pretty cool.
And even contractors and owners that have this stuff in their house. And so I think that theme is going to play out as, we'll see a lot of these manufacturers who have been talking about for years to bring on these connected appliances. They're kind of already phasing out. Santa Fe, great example. They kind of phased out their smart dehumidifier, and now they're just using Shipshape because it's so much cheaper too. So much cheaper to just unplug the dehumidifier, plug it into this cheap little smart plug, and now it's smart. And now we can tell if that pump's running or that dehumidifier is running when it's not supposed to, or vice versa. Or is it actually controlling the humidity, that kind of stuff. Whereas like all the others, I think are just kind of like, if you're an early adopter in tech, it's nice to have or cool, but like, what's the value? I don't see it. And I don't think consumers do either. I think the manufacturers are halting production on that stuff because they're seeing the same kind of bubble up.
Now, Ryan, one thing you just talked about is like, we have appliances and technology that might be convenient, right? Like the water filter needs to be changed, right? That's not going to kill me, right? But if you have a smoke detector going off, that's saving my life, right? So there's a fine line. Can you talk about some of the actual cost or data that you've seen where Shipshape has been able to save individuals money? And like, can you put a dollar figure to some of that?
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's so many good ones. A recent one was this poor guy had been through hell with his basement already. Already had some major issue where the pump went out and multiple pump failures. So like, what are the odds of that? And he was also redoing his house. And so the water damage, I think, ended up being like $100,000 or something. And he was fighting over the insurance. And you know how it is with the insurance companies, like dealing with them is a freaking nightmare. And so he's fighting with them over, $100,000 worth of damage. Now they're only going to do so much. And so once they finally got all the water out of there and they put the new sump pumps in, this time they installed it with Shipshape, and we caught those pumps going out again. And it was after they'd already started the repairs. And so this guy he got the alert, came running downstairs, and lo and behold, like the float switch got stuck or something, or it didn't go off. And that guy called us and was like, take my money. Like, you guys, I'll never forget. I still have the email. I was like, can you put that in writing? And he goes, Shipshape saved my ass. And, I can't speak to the exact amount of money, but I mean, just the pure, like, there was just so much pain associated with the first one that I think he was like over the moon about it. And so there's a lot of like those examples where they just got a project done and stroke of bad luck, power outage, whatever, can happen. And they're like, oh my God, I could not imagine if I didn't have this, in place. And then we, my favorite saves are the ones of these contractor owners who are hesitant, and then we catch something in their house, and I'm like, yes, should have told you. And there's a couple of good ones there.
Well, one piece of the details I don't think we've covered yet, Ryan, and I would like to know more about this, is so let's talk about communication, because I'm picturing I've got 1,000 customers out there, 1,000 monitors. We get a rainstorm, and my entire soundboard lights up like that scene in National Lampoon's Christmas.
Yeah.
So because you guys have this now, that Shipshape's facilitating better communication between the homeowner to the contractor to ease that stress of overload. So what's that look like? What have you seen on that end, and how it's facilitating better conversion rates and all of that?
Yeah, it's funny because initially we wanted to like help cut the noise down where, we're trying to keep unnecessary truck rolls happening. And I'm sure you guys can speak to it, but like, how often do you get out there? And it was something that they could have easily done themselves in a minute. And that's expensive, right? Like that's a crew, that's a sales guy that could have been doing a project elsewhere. And it's, you guys in the waterproofing game, it's a total numbers game. And so that takes away. And like, how often is that happening? Especially as your customers start to build up, what kind of maintenance plan then? So to answer your question directly, so initially we were working on communication by us being kind of like the first wall to help them get through that issue so that you're not getting flooded with these issues.
Nice.
But the one that you just said, so perfect example, the storms in North Carolina, that was, first of all, very sad. But second of all, yeah, we saw hundreds of homes go offline kind of at the same time and they come back online. And I think we had like, don't quote me on this, but in the double digit saves, like big saves of, people that didn't realize that their house was, or their basement or crawl space was flooding, or that, after the storms, the humidity was out of control and they would have been very, very likely growing mold because it doesn't take very long, right? Like, I think it's like inside of even a month if it's bad enough. And so in that case, when many cases were coming online all at once, we were definitely triaging to the point where, we were not just helping with waterproofing stuff, but we were also helping them connect to other providers. And those contractors needed help. Like they couldn't, they were backed up weeks, I think. There was one case where I think they couldn't get over to somebody's house for like a month. And so, helping with that kind of stuff. And, we get a lot of pride out of that too. That's when that stuff happens and we're really helping people, it helps me get out of like we're in this for the money. We're doing, this is a business, and more like this is real. We're helping real people and we're saving them from real bad situations.
Yeah.
And same goes for you guys. I mean, people are desperate. By the time they get to their waterproofer, they know that's going to be expensive, but it's damn necessary.
Now, Ryan, do you have statistics on when you have a contractor out there putting in a ShipShape product, how often do those stay on and how long do they stay on with that individual customer?
Yeah, great question. Also, shameless plug, pretty much always. I think we've had one or two cases where a homeowner unplugged it because they felt like they were, and this is in the early days, like they were getting too many alerts, or they felt like in one case that we were listening to them or something. But for the most part, this stuff, obviously the plugs are hardwired in, right? Because you're plugged into the outlet, so those should last forever. The Trio sensors that are measuring humidity, temperature, and looking for leaks, those have about a 3 to 5 year battery life. And so about every 3 to 5 years, they just need to get the batteries replaced. And again, the really good sales contractors, they're pretty excited to get back in that door because it's been 3 to 5 years, probably something else that they can sell them. Maybe they didn't move forward on, XYZ project. Was that the question you were asking? I think it was.
Mm-hmm. So this is what's crazy about all this is, first off, now we're flowing up the red flags when needed without urgency, but we're collecting data, which is saving homeowners money. So you guys have come a long way in the last year is what I've seen as a product. But so what's the next level you guys have on your roadmap, Ryan? Like, what's the cool stuff coming? Can you do that, Ryan? Your developers are going to kill you. Are you allowed to pepper in some of the cool stuff behind the scenes that's coming up with ShipShape? Because you guys do some pretty cool stuff.
Alex, my business partner, has labeled me as an optimistic sales guy. So he freaks out when I get posed this question because I tell that customer, we do everything. And then the customer's like, let's go. And we end up scrambling. The good news before I answer this question is that, we're still still small enough where we can be very consultative with our customers. So let's say, hey, Mr. Waterproofer, is there anything that we're not doing? And if they're like, hey, we've got, this flow by Moen pump, it'd be really cool if this was integrated with you guys. Or, hey, we notice you don't send this kind of alert. Or, hey, you do it this way. It should be done this way. We can make those changes within weeks, not months. And so that's been a really good selling tool for us. And it's made the experience with some of these bigger contractors so much better because they're used to working with, the Daikin's and other big manufacturers of the world the feedback loop is a little bit different. We'll just put it that way. Think about them as like a cruise ship, right? Much harder to turn that ship. We're like a little mini speedboat. We can turn on a dime. In terms of what's coming, yeah, I just mentioned one. Homeowners now can basically upload their inspection reports. If you had an inspector come over into the app, and the AI will just ingest all that data and build out your entire home health score. It'll tell you the life of all of your appliances, when you need to get things checked. It'll build out your My Budgeting report so you can kind of look into the future in terms of, budgeting what you should be budgeting to replace or not replace, over the next few years. And then there's all kinds of other integrations that are happening. I know, like the Tesla Powerwall, we're moving towards solar. We just introduced, this is a good one. We just introduced 2 new plugs or 2 new sensors. One is called a hard switch. And the hard switch is for appliances that don't plug into a wall. Think like your pool pump that runs 24/7. That's a really good one, to monitor. And we can also now hook up into your circuit breaker. So monitoring all of the electronics in your house, not just, what's being plugged in the wall. And we do that through a company called Sense, who is great and very sophisticated. You can see which appliances or what in your home is using what amount of energy. So those are some cool new features. I'll stay quiet on the other ones because in case there's any,
spill the tea, bro.
Well,
spill the
we
tea.
gotta
Have enough
Let's
white
give-
claw, Ryan. We'll get
hold
you
on,
talking.
hold on. So hold on. Let's be friends here. I love Alex. Alex is a smart guy. But we've got at least 3 weeks before this episode comes out. So, Ryan, you get 3 weeks of runway before Alex starts to have an aneurysm. I'm just teasing.
I'm just quickly looking to make sure I don't say anything too stupid.
Yeah, watch Ryan say something crazy, Terry. Like when your sump pump starts to break down, it will literally jump out of the
Self-correct.
basin and drive itself to your office and fix itself and then come back.
I think this is an easy one. So in the beginning, I think, some installers were having trouble with the install process because it took, more than a couple of minutes. And I've been there too. There's nothing worse than standing in the house or having the homeowner standing over your shoulder, breathing down your neck while you're working on something. And every second of that is cringy. I personally hated it. So I can't imagine these contractors, that are out there doing this every day. And by the way, they're installing the ShipShape unit. Like now they're inside your house and they're hooking up to the internet. And so that process, we spent a lot of time basically making it much more efficient. And I'm anybody who's installing your stuff now, they'll probably tell you it's like night and day what it used to be like. It shouldn't take you more than a couple minutes, like a minute or two. The whole process in Wizard is super straightforward. We actually created an entirely separate app. It's called the Technician app. And it comes with also, if your sales guy doesn't want to sell it to them, then you just pull it up and there's like a little 1-minute video and you just show the 1-minute really creepy AI generated version of Sam the Otter, which is way more jacked than he should be in said video. But that's just how ChatGPT did it. And the Jack Sam will explain to you, how to that homeowner how it works. So, a lot of like the new stuff that's coming out is really focused on like ease of functionality. And we just did a big overhaul. Like in terms of like, super secret releases, I do have to be careful because we've got some good competition out there coming up the curve. One in particular we really like because I think, look, part of the challenge for us was, are we too early? Are homeowners going to understand what this is and adopt this technology? And fortunately, a couple of companies recently came out and have had wild success since they started, even just in the first year or two. Again, and mostly focused on HVAC, but they rung the dinner bell for all these private equity companies who are looking at, everybody's got FOMO, right? So now if you've got one of the biggest players in waterproofing or in HVAC, offering their customers this monitoring, you better too.
Yeah.
And so we've seen a little bit of like the Me Too, like checking off, like we do this too. And, I can call these guys out because they've been such a great partner, but Terra Firma has been like the leading example of,
Oh yeah, Ryan Beckley's outfit. up in
Yeah.
Northwestern market. They're massive outfit, 4
They're-
offices.
They're freaking crushing it. They install more ShipShape than any other waterproofer we work with. And, mind you, that they are in a pretty sophisticated market, kind of the Pacific Northwest. But the way that they're doing it is they're including ShipShape with every sump pump that they install or a certain tier of a maintenance plan. And their sales guys are coming back and saying, this works. You are going to close more sales because we are seen as, this solution comes with technology.
Right.
And it should. It really should. And so they've done a fantastic job, and we're learning a lot from them too. The feedback loop is very much open with those guys. And so they're helping us create a better product for waterproofers. And we have a couple partners in HVAC that are doing the same thing because we want to build this technology with our customers. That's how this works.
So, Ryan, as we come to a close on this, there's one thing, and I'm guaranteeing you Will did not prep you with this.
Oh, hold on. This is great. No. Don't you throw me under the bus there, Terry. I sent the podcast prep docs to Ryan. Now we're going to see how well,
If Ryan did his
because he's
homework.
used to AI.
I read it. Let's hear it.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Let's go.
Ryan, we close this out because Will is known as the patron saint of screwing things up. What is something you have done that you've screwed up so bad that you can now look back and, one, be proud of it, and two, hopefully the timeline that you're no longer going to get charged for it?
Oh man, I had no idea what is appropriate to say on here or not, but we're gonna do it anyways. So back in the day, I was in college. This was when cabs were still a thing, so Uber did not exist. And in Dallas, there was a kind of a weird taboo that cab drivers were supposed to accept credit cards, but they didn't like it, and in some cases would very staunchly fight you or argue with you if you didn't have cash. And so 21-year-old Ryan, he's got some lady friends in the car and he's driving them back like a gentleman back to the sorority house. And like a gentleman, drops them off and goes to pay the cab driver. Cab driver doesn't like the method of payments. And so next thing I know, me and cab driver rolling around on the front yard of this sorority house with the entire sorority now literally on the deck watching this unfold. And then who do you think they believed when the cop showed up? That'd be the cab driver. And so I probably, in the most public possible way, got arrested in front of the entire Pi-Fi house. And then, if I thought I screwed up bad there, no, I went and posted about how I'd spent a night in jail on Facebook, thinking that was cool, and keeping it from my parents. And my mom's friend obviously was like, hey, your son's posting about spending a night in jail. Yeah, parents didn't love that. Got in all kinds of trouble.
You know what I'm hearing, Terry?
Oh, that would be great if there was an episode.
He was a bad boy. Ryan was a bad boy. But I wish I could say many lessons were learned, but very few were, unfortunately.
Well,
No, in all seriousness, no, that was a good lesson learned. And that's me screwing something up. Hopefully that was in the same category you guys were looking for.
hey, I want
didn't know where
to
take that.
add some correlation here. At least I think it gave you the bravery to walk into a house with a collapsing deck under the crawl space for a truck driver. That was at the beginning of our podcast. So it taught you a little bit of bravery. So good for that.
Actually, you know what? Cut all of that out. I have one related to the industry.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Now
He screwed up enough. We got two.
go.
Okay, I got one.
People are
This
going
is
to be
good.
searching Ryan Dalton arrested. All three of them now.
So no, this is a good one because it also it potentially involved the fire department. So
Oh God, it just keeps. But wait, there's more, Terry.
so ShipShape starts, and it was very much, Alex and I, we were getting our hands dirty. We were going into the crawl spaces. We were doing the connections. There is a wide variety of quality of crawl spaces, and I noticed it quickly because I am terrified of spiders. Like, that is my very one big fear is spiders. And so I would even bring one of our interns that we hired, because if I could even just get a whiff of a spider web, or I could just see it, I was sending him in because I would freeze up to a point where I was really scared. So I pull up on a crawl space. We're in Alabama, no intern, and it's just me. And this woman did a big purchase. She had 3 sump pumps and 2 dehumidifiers. And so I was pretty excited to bring this one online. And, I look through this tiny little crawl space hole and I'm like, okay, that looks pretty clean. I get a look inside, very clean, very encapsulated. I was like, oh, this is going to be an easy one. And as I'm starting to work my way through it, I don't know if you've ever heard, like in some crawl spaces with these dips, and I got stuck in this dip, and I got stuck under this pipe. I couldn't move, and then the jumping spiders came out, and no joke, there was probably three of, and I'm not being a wuss when I say this, like they're like this. That's a big enough body where like I'm terrified. I'm crying. We're just gonna say it. Crying in this crawl space to the point where I can hear the woman being like, "Are you okay down there?" And I was like, "You need to call the fire department. You need to get me out of here." I have my very first panic attack, which I didn't know how that feels. I started yelling at her that I was having a heart attack, and so this woman thinks that this guy is having a heart attack in her crawl space, screaming for the fire department and his mommy. That was pretty bad. Then I finally got my ass out of there, and she had seen that I'd been clearly crying. It was a pretty awkward moment, but that screwed up an install. Here we go.
That's all right. Well,
you got all kinds of fun stories there.
You're still alive. You're with us today, Ryan, against arrests, spiders, pipes, fire departments, and it all. And you're doing a great job for our industry. So, yeah, like obviously we've talked about shipshape.ai. We're going to put the notes in our show notes, but, they want to learn more. Where's the best place to go? LinkedIn, Facebook, your website, obviously?
Yeah, just go to shipshape.ai. They can catch us on LinkedIn, Facebook, all the places. My email's ryan@shipshape.ai. Feel free to hit me up directly. Yeah, we'd love to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm a happy customer. Love what you guys are doing. Love the technology aspect. I love that you also gave us a peek to piss off your engineering department. It's going to be great. But to all those listening out there, thank you guys for hanging out with us for another week. As I mentioned, we will be looking a little older next week after our camp, but we're going to rebound just fine. So to all you guys out there, appreciate you guys listening. Ryan, cheers to you, sir. We appreciate you being on the show, including all the little technical difficulties. But to everybody, we'll see you next week, and thanks for listening to another episode of Beers with Contractors. See ya.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder. Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.